Hey everybody, we're here to talk about collector's editions of games today. Tyler, what do you see in front of you?
I see a lot of examples of buyer's regret.
So you're of the opinion that collector's editions don't really have much meaning, like, outside of the initial get, right? Like, in the end, it's just kind of a waste of space?
I'm of the opinion that anything that you spend extra money on that isn't extra game is just stuff that's just going to clutter up your house, and you might be excited when you get it, like when you first open the box and get it, and then in a year or two you're going to wonder, why did I buy this and what am I going to do with it now? I mean, that dragon statue looks great.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, Skyrim is kind of out of my life. I don't need a dragon statue.
You don't see it maybe as a good piece of art that somebody would want to keep around? I mean, me personally, I'm a bit indifferent, but do you think there's a group of people out there who might see that and continue to appreciate it?
It's kind of a plastic cheap imitation. It's not really a great example of art, and otherwise something that's going to be really hard to dust.
And so most of the stuff we're looking at here are sort of these large physical models. There's this controller from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, that was a fairly famous one. This completely impractical controller that looks like a chainsaw, which is, endemic of stuff from the game, but it's a bad controller.
So fair enough with that, because that is just a little silly. But I mean, so I'm of the opinion that for the right series, or for the right series, you can be coerced into buying pretty much anything. Like for me, anything like art books or like DVDs with behind-the-scene commentary for a series that I really like, for example, like Gradius or Castlevania, something like that, it's really easy for me to attach myself to it. But when I see something for, I guess Skyrim, for example, I don't really get it necessarily.
I do find it interesting that you use the word coerce, because that kind of suggests that you've been convinced or connived into buying this stuff based on your love for this franchise. And I mean, there are tons of franchises that I deeply love, but I don't feel like that extra money is reinvesting in my love for the game, because it's not something I get to. It doesn't increase my enjoyment of the game. It's just...
In a lot of cases, that's true. For me, I guess, when I see something like, concept art, right, that gives me a little bit of insight into what went into making the game. The same that goes with, like, developer interviews and things like that.
But I mean, if it's stuff that, unless it's actually coming with more game or stuff that you can experience outside of the game, like a soundtrack, I could get behind a soundtrack for a game. And in fact, I buy a lot of game soundtracks because I like the sound design of a lot of games, so I want to get to experience that in times where I don't get to enjoy the game.
Because a lot of this stuff is sort of developed by, PR firms trying to find ways to market the game to people and get a few extra dollars. But do you think that money should be kind of redirected back into extra content rather than stuff like this?
Absolutely.
Can you think of any examples where that's happened? I mean, it seems kind of rare. Everyone's trying to push these sort of things, like these statues, like with the recent
well, there's the Dead Island creepy torso thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that stumbled for its own reasons, but
yeah.
I think it's at this point, who really holds that series, and I say series loosely, in high regard enough to spend the extra money to get that, which is pretty grotesque in its own right.
Right. And I mean, we're also starting to see lots of really high value items. Like out there we have the Black Ops remote control card camera thing. Year before that you could get the Modern Warfare 2 or 3 night vision goggles. Like, who has a practical use for night vision goggles that isn't a complete creepo?
So, but also talking about value, some people speculate on this stuff. They'll think, okay, this series is really popular, there's only going to be so many of these. Down the road, I could double, maybe even triple my money with the right thing.
That's the other angle, because I have no personal interest in collection.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who do and have a good idea of what's going to be valuable in a couple years. Do you see any value in any of this stuff?
It's hard for me personally, because honestly, a lot of the stuff that commands a lot of value tends to originate with Japanese series, believe it or not. Because when we get them, then the limited editions are very limited. And the amount of people that they're trying to convince to buy these is already pretty small among the entire industry in our country. Personally, from this lot, I wouldn't want any of this. And I'm a collector. Like, I actually like to collect games quite a bit. And in some cases, art books, like I said before, DVDs with developer stuff. But I guess I have to agree with you that when it comes to these large statues, it doesn't do anything for the game itself. And it really is just a bit of fan service to get you excited.
Yeah, and we're seeing a bunch of this kind of stuff right now that's being marketed towards players. I mean, there's the Dead Space 3 Collector's Edition, which that game just came out this week. which that's being pushed as a collector's item.
Right.
And further down the road, there's the BioShock Infinite, the Songbird edition, which comes with a statue, and it also comes with an art book and I think some patches and stuff. But do you foresee this stuff becoming collectible or sought after by collectors in a couple of years?
It's hard to say. It depends a lot on the quantity. If they were really limited collector's editions, in terms of quantity, not just the time frame when they were available, maybe. That does happen. But for the most part, some of this stuff seems like it was pretty well mass-produced for people who are willing to spend the extra money.
Yeah, so in essence, these aren't even really collector's items. These are just high-value items, but without any kind of proof that this is a limited production, there's no actual scarcity out there that could drive the value of these items up, correct?
Right, yeah, and sometimes that really does depend on, the amount of people that they're trying to get this game out to in the first place, If it's a game like Dead Space 3, for example, they're expecting millions of people to buy this game, and probably a couple thousand, 10,000 people to spend the extra money for that extra edition.
Yeah.
That's not going to be that limited. Limited is 2,000, something like that. Then you'd see the item sort of jump in value even after a year, once it's hard to find. The Ni no Kuni bundle, for example, the Witch edition, that is already going for close to $500 on eBay.
Yeah.
And people are going to keep paying a lot of money for that because it is sort of sought after. And the game, as far as I'm aware, at least in that edition, didn't get a big printing.
Yeah. So it seems like as long as it's an actual limited production, legitimate scarcity of the item, it will be a valuable item in a couple of years, and it's probably worth seeking after.
Potentially. But these statues, I'm just not convinced.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about collector's editions around the office, and we wanted to make a video to kind of jumpstart the discussion. How do you guys feel? Maybe some of you bought these figures now, but where do you see yourself with them 10 years down the road? Do you want to hang on to them? What would you actually spend extra money for?
Do they actually improve your enjoyment of the game? Or instead of just looking at a statue from Skyrim, maybe you should just play more Skyrim?
Leave your responses in the comment section below, and we'll be sure to follow up with you guys, and thanks for watching.